In northern Saskatchewan, the suicide of a 10-year-old has devastated a community. What's worse is she is the fourth young girl this month to take her own life in the province.
The suicides started just before Thanksgiving. Over 4 days in Stanley Mission and La Ronge, 3 girls between the ages of 12 and 14 took their own lives. Now another in Deschambault Lake, just 10 years old.
It happens all too often, too many young people losing their lives, which is why we continue to be committed to working working with Indigenous communities across the country to deal with this ever occurring.
Phone call saying that your child has committed suicide. How do you feel?
Hello?
Wouldn't want to accept the words at first and deny it because you don't want it to be true,
what about her?
right? This has happened to so many of the First Nations moms and dads. So many of them are hearing this news, and all I want to ask is, why are the suicide rates so much higher for Canada's First Nations people? We are going to find out. Over 50% of the First Nations people have reported to have either moderate or high levels of physiological distress, and 22% of the adults have reported suicide ideation at some point in their lives. Very sad, ain't it? But why is the rate so high? Well, let's see. There are risk factors that can lead up to the First Nations people to start thinking about and considering suicide an option. For example, in the chart, it talks about the first step could be a loss of autonomy, historical losses, or cultural disruption. The next step could be the feeling of social inequity, intergenerational trauma, or being exposed to suicide. The last steps say that it could be from something that happened in their early childhood, a mental illness, or stress and a loss of someone. This is what causes them to think that suicide is the only option out. Some of the crazy things I read about were that 126 per 10,000 First Nation males commit suicide and 35 per 10,000 First Nations females commit suicide a year, compared to the 24 per 10,000 males and 5 per 10,000 females that are not First Nations people. This is a huge difference and is incredibly saddening. In conclusion, I personally think that if they had gotten their lives, I'd had them to turn to and ask for help, but they might have not chosen to commit suicide. Suicide is no joke, and I hope that the rates do go down. Your life just started, and it is way too early to think that taking your own life is an option.